Welcome back everyone to my Let's Play of the Final Fantasy Legend 2. When we last left off, we had just entered the final area in the game here. It's a little maze, and at the end of it is going to be the security system, the arsenal. We're going to be wandering around this maze for a little bit, not because the maze is hard. Basically, you just have to follow Ice's directions. Go to the left and head up. So basically, you go left as far as you can, then go up, and then just keep doing that. Occasionally you'll have to go right, but you'll know when you have to go right because you can't go left anymore, and you just gotta kind of double back. But pretty much head left, go up, right when you have to, and then next time you hit an up, head up, and then just keep following that path, and eventually you'll get to the arsenal. We're gonna be doing some wandering around though, because we still have some monsters to encounter, including the haniwa monster. So it's not actually the rarest encounter; it's the second rarest encounter here on this floor. It's a little over a 3% chance to get into it, but I get lucky and I actually do get into that encounter here. So we just had that shiitake mushroom on the last fight. That was a new enemy. Now we have another new enemy there, the terracotta, and Musashi over there is the highest hit points for basically a regular normal monster with 2,000. So. But they're pretty susceptible to instant death attacks. So if you have like a stone ability or the death ability on one of your mutants or one of your monsters, it tends to work out pretty good against them. So because there's not really much to talk about here, and I'll be talking a lot about the ending in the next game, I guess I'm just gonna give my thoughts on this game. So it's definitely one of my favorite Game Boy games. The first time I played it was back when I was a little kid, probably like 12, 13ish time frame, pre-teen, early teen years. My one friend Corey, he had a Game Boy as well, and we used to just trade games with one another. And this was actually one of the games that he had, and he could never really get far in it. He didn't really understand it all that well. Well, I liked, Final Fantasy. I had Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo, and I was like, oh, cool, it has Final Fantasy in the name, I'll try it out. So, of course, it was much different than the Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo, because this is actually a saga game. But I kind of plowed through it, so didn't really understand it all that well. Had a much harder time than I should have had if I would have understood things that were going on. But as I look back at it now, the game does kind of help you out or like ease you into things in a sense. For instance, your first two helper characters that you get, Mr. S and Key, they both have really good magic attacks. They pretty much can wipe out large groups of enemies. And that should have been my clue that, hey, magic is, really good in the game. Maybe I should, focus on it and learn to get some group attacks. But I really didn't do that, so when I started getting into Ashura's world, the next world, when I didn't have a helper character, it was, pretty difficult, because all those big groups of monsters, I had trouble dealing with them because I didn't have multi-targeting attacks. So I'd either run or get wiped out. And then if I got wiped out, I just want to run more. And of course my stats weren't getting built up. But then I got my next fifth party member in Mask. And Mask, of course, helped me take out Ashura. But the interesting thing about Mask is Mask comes with, without magic. So, but he, at the same time, he kind of teaches you that, even though, you've been taught that magic is really good through Mr. S and Key, Mask then kind of shows you that, against, the gods, the major bosses, magic isn't necessary, and it's actually not very good. Because remember, Mask said no magic is good for Ashura. Kind of teaches you that, hey, magic is good for the regular, mobs, the regular Mook-type enemies, standard encounters, but for major bosses, you're not going to be able to rely on that, so it's important to build up other stats and build up other characters, build up strength type weapons or agility type weapons. So looking back, like I said, you can kind of see the game trying to tell you that, but as a little kid, you know, I didn't really understand that. But thankfully the game, even if you don't understand the mechanics, the game does throw some things at you to make things easier on you. For instance, I got stuck with Venus. But then I ended up finally defeating Venus, even though I didn't have really good stats, because I learned about, like, the gun weapons. I bought a bunch of grenades, bazookas in Venus's city, and was able to power through her, and then the rest of the game using gun-type weaponry. Now, of course, that wasn't the most effective thing to do, because, you know, your best guns kind of top out the tank at about 600 damage, the laser gun at like 350 to 400, so a lot of bosses are going to take a lot longer to do, but overall it does teach you how to take care of things. And speaking of taking care of things, hey, we've got the haniwa here, so I'll jump back into my thoughts, but let's finish talking about this guy first, because he's kind of special. So whenever you meet him, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you throw up that Aegis shield barrier. And that'll basically nullify his quake attack. Because I had a preemptive attack there, I basically just went with the Gung-Nir spear. But a lot of times it might be better to use your defense sword attack, because the defense sword can block his bash and his 7-sword attack. So Isis will want to be using her flare, because you want to be doing as much damage as possible. Your monster, if you have one, like I have P right here, I'm going to use his magic first, the wall attack, and then switch over to his strongest melee attack. There's that quake, but no one's going to take any damage from it because I threw that barrier up with the Aegis shield. Honey Mouse is going back to his to the defense sword now, just to block potentially bash and 7-sword, so he's kind of been retanking at the same time too. Now, because the haniwa has that that recover ability there, he's going to be recovering 1,000 hit points, 10% of his maximum hit points every round. So it's very important that you're trying to do as much damage as possible. So luckily I have the Excalibur on Linus. You can use that to deal some damage, even though he hasn't been working on his strength. It still does damage because of the formula that the Excalibur uses. Haniwa has all as well, so elemental attacks ain't gonna work, so that's why it's gonna be important to have some non-elemental attacks on your spellcasters if you have any. I have the PSI gun, flare books also work, so both the ability and the spell book if you have spell books too. So otherwise though, it's just like I said, a race to the finish. So finally finished him off. There's a 1 in 64 chance that he drops the 7-sword. Didn't get it there, but when I maxed out my stats later on, and I'll show that off in the final episode, I do get a few 7-swords, so you'll actually get to see that in action. So, and another thing we'll eventually see in action in the next video as well is that little spaceship over there, to the upper left there. You'll see it once we get out of this battle. But that links back up to that spaceship back in the shrine where we fought Apollo. It wasn't working up there. It's not working down here either, but I'll show that off when after I finish this battle here. So, and then we'll get back into talking about my thing. So, yes, it's sort of my inventory here. So, good time as any to use a tent since Isis used up all her flares. So, but there it is. Can't enter yet. So, yep, still offline because all the shaking. So straight up there is where the arsenal is. When you step up there, you're given the option to fight it or back off. So don't think that if you accidentally hit up and go in there that you're stuck in the boss battle. So no, you'll get a prompt if you want to start the boss battle or not. So, but anyway, yeah, getting back to my thoughts on the game. Like I said, even though it was very difficult at first, I didn't understand the mechanics of it. I was eventually able to push through thanks to the gun weapons that the game gave me. Of course, then I learned, you know, hey, it's important to like build up stats and all. So next time I went through the game, was much easier. So I hope if you haven't played this game yet and you're looking to do so, that my walkthrough kind of helped you learn the importance of, you know, building your stats up and how to get through the game effectively. So overall, I really think that they did a really good job of improving on the game mechanics from the first Saga game. I played through that. You can check out my Let's Play on that. I like the addition of the new robot class. But the first one only had 3 classes. It only had the humans, the mutants, and the monsters. So you still had a 4-person party though. So now that you have a robot, you can have one of each character, like I have here, and each of them play differently. So it gives a lot of variety in this game. So there's a lot of good challenges you can do with this game. I know like some of the more popular ones were in the game manual. It says like 2 poses you should never use, or like 4 robots and 4 monsters. So it's always a fun thing to go back and try to see if you can beat the game with 4 robots, 4 monsters. Maybe I'll do extra playthroughs once I finish, you know, beating all my games here. My backlog. Maybe I'll go do a 4 monster or a 4 robot playthrough. But yeah, they're pretty interesting. So a lot of replayability because of the way you can customize your party. Everything does kind of balance in the end. Robots are a little probably the most powerful thing, especially at the beginning if you know how to build them. But in the end, eventually robots, you know, if you do enough grinding, robots will never be as pure powerful as a maxed out human or mutant because of you know, so things balance out in the end. Another good thing they did to improve on the first game was even though mutants are still a little random in terms of the abilities they can win, the fact that you can know which ability you're going to lose, the one on the bottom, means that you can kind of prepare the way your mutant's going to grow. You may not be able to, like I said, tell what ability he's going to gain, but you can force the game to get rid of the ability that you don't want or that you need the least. So by placing it at the bottom of your skills and abilities, so that was a good thing. That's a common complaint over the first game, that you have a good ability and you can potentially lose it. You have to basically like save before you get into a battle with your mutant all the time, so you don't risk losing that good ability. So, and speaking of saving all the time, that's another good thing that this game has, that it carried over from the first game. You can save any time, and I guess that's just natural, though, that because this was obviously made for the Game Boy, which was basically a portable console, you had to be able to save at any time, because you never knew when your car trip was going to end. Or wherever you're using the thing I usually mainly played, you know, like I said, when I was driving in the car, when you know, going on a car trip with my family. So, but yeah, so that was pretty nice. It's good to be able to, you know, save at any point. So you not have to lose a lot of progress like some of the more console-based games where you can only save it, like in Dragon Warrior at the King, or at a church, or Final Fantasy at an inn. So you never have to worry about losing super duper a lot of progress. So, which is good, especially when you first play the game, because as I was saying earlier, when I first played the game, didn't know the mechanics. You know, I would die a lot, lose a lot. So the fact that I could save at any time meant that I'd never really lose a lot of progress. So even after I had defeated Odin and no longer had that ability to revive. So, but also, so that's pretty much mainly about you know, game mechanics and stuff like that. Other things that make this game enjoyable. I really like the sprite work. The monsters are really, really detailed. They just look much more cleaner and crisp than the monsters in the first game. Not that the first game was bad. I know it sounds like I'm kind of trashing the first game, but it's just compared to this game, they did a massive step forward from the first game to the second game here. So yeah, sprites are just look much more detailed, both enemies and your characters on the overworld. So I mean, otherwise, other overworld type sprites, you can see they pretty much just lifted from the first game, but character sprites, both monsters and your characters, definitely were big improvements from the first game to the second game. However, I can't really say the same from the second game to the third game. I've played the third game when I was a kid. I ended up getting the third game, but when I got into the army, I basically gave all those games to my brother and told him, hey, see if you sell these online, because I was going in the army. I didn't think I needed them anymore. See if you can sell them online, make some money, and then you can give the money to the local SPCA that I, volunteered at a lot to give back to them. And that's the same SPCA, Hillside SPCA, that I got Spartacus, my current dog, at. So yeah, I got rid of most of those games as a kid that I had as a kid, and that included the Final Fantasy Legend 3. That one is much different than this. Yeah, they made some graphical changes and stuff like that, but they did a lot of changes that I think were for the worst. They made it more like a regular Final Fantasy game. Gone are the durability counters on weapons, like in this game and in the first game. Gone are the random, stat increases. In the Final Fantasy Legend 3, they go to an experience point system, similar to Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy on the Nintendo, where every time you fight a battle, you gain experience points. You gain enough experience points, then you gain a level. They also, there's less distinction between the mutant and the human classes in that game as well. Humans, because they took away, the random stat gains, and the characters just gain stats based on level ups. The kind of only difference between humans and mutants is mutants have proficiency with magic, so they gain a bonus when they use magic spells. Humans with melee weapons. So, and in that game you start with 2 humans and 2 mutants, but you can change into the other classes. You can change into monsters by eating monster meat. You can change into robots by installing robot parts. They also added 2 new classes, beasts and cyborgs. You're basically a human or a mutant. If you get cyborg parts, you can install them. You become a cyborg, and then if you get robot parts, you install them on your cyborg, and then you become a robot. And then you can backtrack it by eating meat. That turns you back a step. So if you're a robot, you eat meat. You can become a cyborg. Eat cyborg, eats meat, becomes a mutant again. And there's also items that do that. And then conversely, if you eat meat as a mutant or a human, you become a beast. Eat meat as a human or a beast, you become a monster. It's just, I don't like the mechanics. It has a good story though. It's a time travel story, kind of similar to Chrono Trigger, which I'll eventually end up playing, where you're basically trying to save the world, the past. See that's the security system. Are you ready? Nope. So, alright then, get ready. So yeah, so you don't have to necessarily fight that. But yeah, it's a good story. You travel between the past, the present, and the future, and then there's another world that you end up going to. Like I said, good story, probably a better story than this game, but overall I don't like the game mechanics as much. So I may not end up playing that one. I ended up picking up this in the Final Fantasy Legend 1 at the used game store, so that's why I have this, was able to play them, but haven't been able to find the Final Fantasy Legend 3, but maybe if I do find it eventually, maybe I will play it, but don't know, so we'll see how it goes. But speaking of playing, come back next episode where we finish off this game. Take care, have a good day. Bye.